Hey everybody, Noah from Stage 3 Motorsports here, and we are outside with our 2018 F-150, and we're going to give you guys a rundown of the $4,500 tier. We've wrapped up basically all the installs. You guys have seen the reviews and everything that we've done, so we're going to give you a breakdown of all that from the top to bottom. But first, make sure you head down below, hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the other videos we crank out on this truck, and also follow us on Instagram. So for those of you guys who've been keeping up with our budget build, you've probably already seen the videos we did for the first tier, which was about $2,000. And that gave us a decent amount of money to work with and add a little bit of parts onto it. And some of those are actually going to carry into this $4,500 budget. So a few things like the suspension and some of the visual options are going to change, but some of the stuff that will carry over is going to be the LED headlights from Diode Dynamics and the LED fogs from Crystalux, as well as the Raptor style LEDs in the front grille. We'll also be carrying over the WeatherTech floor mats that we have inside the cab and these Falken Wild Peak tires, which are 275/70/18, and they do fit really nicely on this new setup. All of these carried over mods from the first tier are going to total out to around $1,400, so that's going to count into this budget. We'll put that in the numbers, and then we're going to jump in now to the rest of the mods that we added in for this tier. Starting off with the accessories that we've added for this tier of the build, we've got the DZ tailgate assist in the back, as well as the Tonneau Pro tri-fold tonneau cover. Then we added the Husky Liner underseat gearbox, a bed rug impact mat, and Putco stainless steel tailgate letters to finish everything off. Moving forward into lighting, everything we did on the front end was basically covered in the $2,000 portion of the build. So now what we're going into is basically all the LED mods for the back end of the truck. We added the Diode Dynamics LED license plate lights, which are an SMD24 bulb, as well as a Diode Dynamics 50-watt resistor kit, Putco LED backup lights, and Putco LED tail lights for the rear. It's worth noting that not all of those lighting upgrades worked out exactly the way we had planned, but hang tight and we'll explain that towards the end. The next group of mods we dealt deal with suspension, wheels, and tires, so we went ahead and did the Rancho Quick Lift loaded leveling kit on the front, as well as the matching Rancho RS9000XL shocks in the back. We paired those up with some Fuel Sledge 18x9 wheels, and then obviously on top of that we kept the Falken 33-inch Wild Peak tires and just threw those onto the fuel wheels themselves. Now looking through the numbers, you'll notice that doing the wheels and suspension was definitely one of the most expensive parts of this build, but the reason we focused so heavily on that is we wanted to improve the off-road capability of the truck. And a few of the things that we changed were removing the wheel spacers and the factory wheels in favor of these fuels. And essentially they run about a +1mm offset, and it's an 18x9 wheel, so we get a similar stance with them being moved out towards the edge of the fender with just more of an aftermarket look instead of just a standard factory wheel. With that, we removed our factory struts with the spacers on top of them completely and swapped all of that out with the new Rancho Quick Lift struts that you saw previously. And these basically allow us a little bit more adjustability as well as a better off-road ride than what you'd get by just throwing a spacer onto factory suspension. Now moving under the hood of our 2018 F-150, we jumped into a couple power mods, which I know a lot of you guys and us included have been kind of curious about, especially with some of the redesigned stuff that Ford's done on these trucks and with that new transmission, the 10-speed paired to this 5.0. We were kind of curious to see what would happen. The two big changes we made were the S&B cold air intake that we have installed, as well as a Bully Dog BDX tuner, which we programmed with some 5-star custom tunes. So our experience so far with the intake is that it adds a little bit more throttle response, and it gives us the ability to run an oiled filter that's a lot nicer than just your standard drop-in paper filter and can also be cleaned and reused. So that's pretty nice, but where the big change in the way this truck drives comes from is that Bully Dog BDX tuner with the custom tunes. Just from personal experience running this thing around, the 10-speed transmission with the 5.0 is pretty fast from factory, and we definitely like that as an improvement over the previous generations, but by tuning this, it was an even more noticeable change, just a lot faster through the shifts. It felt like acceleration got up and moved just a lot quicker. The truck's a little bit more nimble, and it definitely improved the feel overall on the road and basically wakes the truck up a little bit. So coming back around to those lighting issues that we mentioned previously, basically what we ran into is when we did the taillight install on these, we initially planned to install some resistors with these taillights, but it is a pretty tedious process to install them, and what we realized is with these newer trucks, you technically don't need that to prevent hyperblinking. Essentially, the way Ford has it set up is that the taillights themselves on the outside of the truck aren't going to hyperblink when you kick the blinkers on, but it will hyperblink within the cab, and you can actually shut that off by using ForScan and just changing the programming slightly. So that was what we ended up doing instead of using the resistor kit. Now for the LED Putco backup lights we were going to install, we ended up having to basically completely skip over those just because we were a little misinformed on what bulbs would actually fit, and the ones we got didn't end up working with the 2018. So sadly, we weren't able to get those installed. We will say for those of you running up to a 2017 model truck, you shouldn't have any problem if you did want to run those bulbs in your taillights. It was just for our 18, it didn't work. So that wraps up our rundown of all the mods that we've added for this $4,500 tier of our budget. And while this is kind of the end of that rundown, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the last you see of this truck or the last of the videos. You're going to want to make sure you stay tuned because we are going to be cranking out some stuff with an off-road review on the suspension and a few other reviews and things around this truck and this build. But we're also going to be moving forward now to the next tier, which is going to be $7,500 for our budget, which will give us a lot more room to basically build this truck out for better utility, better off-road use, and just more of an all-around good performer. Before you go to check out the other videos on this build though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the little notification bell so you don't miss out on any other videos that we're cranking out. Also follow us on Instagram for all the other daily updates and cool pictures that we put up.